I used to have a home with tall windows, laughter, and the smell of coffee every morning. Now, my home was a broken sidewalk under the rusted shadow of a bridge in downtown Seattle. It's strange how quickly life can fold in on itself. One moment, you're signing mortgage papers. The next, you're fighting for a cardboard box that isn't soaking wet. I lost everything after my divorce. My wife, Laura, took the house, the savings, the car, even the dog. All I kept was my name, Michael Turner. Nights were the worst. The cold crept into your bones like a debt collector you couldn't pay. Sometimes I'd talk to myself, not because I was crazy, but because silence was crueler than hunger. That night, rain poured harder than usual. I crouched under my blanket, clutching a cup of gas station coffee that had gone cold hours ago. The streetlights flickered above me, and then a black Mercedes stopped just a few feet away. I didn't look up. People in cars didn't talk to men like me. But the door opened. Expensive shoes stepped into the puddle beside me. "Are you Michael Turner?" I looked up. A man in a tailored gray coat stared down at me. He was clean-shaven, probably in his 40s, holding a leather briefcase that didn't belong anywhere near this street. "Who's asking?" I muttered, pulling my jacket tighter. He glanced around, lowering his voice. "My name is Henry Watts. I represent a client who's been searching for you. You just inherited $47 million. I almost laughed. "Buddy, you got the wrong Michael Turner. The only thing I've inherited is frostbite." But he didn't smile. He pulled out a folded letter with an embossed seal, the kind only lawyers or movie villains carry. "This is real." The benefactor insisted I find this Michael Turner, born in 1968, former mechanical contractor, divorced from Laura Turner. My throat went dry. He knew too much. Who the hell would leave me anything? Henry hesitated. Then he said something that made the rain sound louder. "A man named Thomas Hale. He said you ruined his life." I froze. The name meant nothing to me. But the way Henry's eyes flickered, like he pitted me, made me feel something I hadn't felt in months. Fear. He slipped a business card into my hand. "If you want answers, be at this address tomorrow morning. Bring nothing but yourself." The car door shut. The Mercedes drove off, leaving me with nothing but the hiss of tires and the echo of a name I didn't recognize. Thomas Hale. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the card under the dim streetlight until the letters blurred. By morning, I'd made up my mind. Maybe it was a scam. Maybe it was madness. But I had nothing left to lose. So I walked. When I reached the tall glass building printed on the card, a woman at the front desk looked me up and down, my torn jacket, the mud on my shoes, and hesitated before saying, "Mr. Turner, they've been expecting you." The elevator ride to the 27th floor felt eternal. Every floor that passed made my stomach twist tighter. When the doors opened, Henry stood waiting with a manila envelope. "Welcome, Mr. Turner," he said quietly. "Please have a seat. We need to discuss your inheritance and conditions that come with it." The room smelled like leather and paper, wealth in its purest form. I leaned forward, gripping the edge of the chair. "Before we talk about money, tell me one thing," I said. "Who was Thomas Hale?" Henry opened the envelope and slid a single page toward me. On it was a handwritten letter. "Michael Turner, you don't know me, but I know everything about you. You took what was mine, and now I'll give you what's left of me. Consider this your inheritance and my revenge." I looked up, my pulse pounding. What the hell does that mean? Henry's expression didn't change. "It means, Mr. Turner, your life is about to change again. If you were me, homeless and desperate, would you have trusted that man? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you're following this story, because this gets darker." The lawyer slid me a key engraved with a single word. "Hale. When you've been broken long enough, hope starts to feel like a trap." That's exactly what Thomas Hale's fortune felt like. A baited hook dipped in gold. I sat across from Henry in that sterile office, watching him open a heavy black folder marked "Last Will and Testament of Thomas A. Hale." "This was written 6 weeks before his death," Henry said. "Death?" I repeated. "How did he die?" "Suicide," he replied simply. "Gunshot. His estate was found in northern Washington, Hale Manor. Everything he owned now belongs to you. I felt my stomach twist, but I didn't even know the man. Henry adjusted his glasses. That's what puzzles us. Mr. Hale left no living relatives, but in his letter, he called you the man who took everything from me. I stopped because I realized something. The name Laura Turner had been on his list. My ex-wife. My chest tightened. Did he know my wife? Henry hesitated. There are references to her in his records. Mr. Hale mentioned a woman who destroyed 2 men's lives. But you'll find all of that inside the house. The house? Yes, the Hale estate. The will includes one condition. He pulled out a smaller envelope sealed in red wax. To receive the inheritance, you must reside in Hale Manor for exactly 1 year. If you leave before that time, the money reverts to another party. I frowned. Another party? Henry nodded. A woman named Laura Hale. My blood froze. You mean Laura Turner? He said nothing. I felt a strange heat rise inside me. Anger, disbelief, maybe fear. This is insane, I said. You expect me to live in a dead man's house, who apparently hated me, for a year? Henry slid the red-sealed envelope closer. You don't have to, but if you walk away now, the fortune passes directly to your ex-wife. Her name hit harder than any punch. Laura, the woman who'd smiled as she took my world apart in court. I clenched my jaw. Fine, I said quietly. I'll go. Henry nodded once. The address and entry key are in the envelope. But Mr. Turner, he paused. A word of caution. Mr. Hale was a complicated man. His wealth came with enemies and secrets. I stood, gripping the key he'd given me earlier. It gleamed under the fluorescent light. Hale etched into its surface like a warning. Outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds thinned just enough to let the pale sun through, but it didn't feel warm. As I walked toward the bus station, the wind carried a chill whisper, almost like words I didn't want to hear. You took what was mine. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in a motel bed, staring at the letter and the key on the table. $47 million. 1 year in a dead man's mansion. And the name Laura Hale. Who was Thomas Hale? What did he mean by revenge? Somewhere, deep in my gut, I knew this wasn't about inheritance. It was about payback. And somehow I was a weapon. What would you have done? Walked away from the money or stepped into that mansion? Comment below. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next part reveals what's waiting inside Hale Manor. As I reached the estate gates the next morning, the massive iron doors creak open on their own, and a woman's voice whispers from inside. Welcome home, Michael. I'd seen big houses before, the kind realtors brag about on glossy brochures, but Hale Manor wasn't beautiful. It was the kind of place that looked like it wanted to keep its secrets buried under brick and dust. The mansion sat at the end of a long, curved road swallowed by fog. The iron gates had already opened when I arrived, though I never saw who opened them. The gravel crunched under my boots as I walked up the path lined with dead rose bushes and cracked statues that seemed to watch me. When I reached the front door, I hesitated. The key in my hand, the one engraved Hale, felt heavier than metal should. I unlocked the door. The air inside was stale, like the house hadn't been touched in years. Grand staircase, marble floor, chandelier thick with cobwebs. Paintings lined the walls. Portraits of strangers with their faces violently scratched out. Every face except one. A woman stood painted in the center of the hall. Dark hair, pale skin, green eyes, eyes I knew too well. Laura. My throat tightened. What the hell? I whispered, stepping closer. But something was off. The nameplate beneath the painting read, Laura Hale, 1975 to 2019. Laura Hale. My ex-wife's maiden name was Hartman, unless she'd lied about that too. I turned away, trying to shake it off, but the house seemed to hum around me, low and hollow, like it remembered things I didn't. In the living room, the fireplace still held a faint smell of burnt wood. On the mantel sat a silver frame with a single sentence engraved on it. She lied to both of us. I froze. Behind me, floorboards creaked, slow, Deliberate steps. I spun around, but there was no one there. Hello? My voice echoed back, flat and lonely. I found the main study at the end of the hall. Dust-covered shelves. Books about property law, psychology, and revenge. Actual titles. Inheritance Warfare, The Art of Retribution, Mind Control, and Persuasion. It felt like walking into someone's obsession. I sat at the desk and opened the first drawer. Inside was a single cassette tape labeled Michael, Play When Ready. I didn't own a cassette player, but the desk did. I pressed play. Michael, if you're hearing this, then you've already stepped into my grave. The voice was deep, steady, and full of venom. She'll tell you I was cruel. She'll say I was unstable. But you'll see the truth soon enough. You and I were brothers once, not by blood, but by betrayal. My breath caught. Brothers? The tape continued, distorted. Stay one night, and you'll hear her too. She never really left, Michael. She just changed sides. I stopped the tape. The silence afterward was worse than the voice itself. I looked around the room, suddenly aware of every creak and whisper. The house was alive, watching, listening. That night, I tried to sleep in the master bedroom. The bed was made, sheets crisp, like someone had been expecting me. Sometime after midnight, I woke to a faint whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind, until I heard my name. Michael. It came from the wall beside me. I pressed my ear against it, and the voice grew clearer. She lied to both of us. Michael, don't trust the lawyer. Don't trust her. My heart pounded. Who are you? I whispered. The whisper came again, softer this time. I'm what's left of him. The lights flickered. A cold breath swept across the room. Then silence. I didn't sleep again. I just sat there until morning, staring at the walls, waiting for something, anything to make sense. But in Hale Manor, sense was the first thing to die. If you woke up to a whisper like that, would you run or would you stay? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because what I found in the basement next changed everything. The next morning, the lawyer called me. His first words were chilling. Mr. Turner, whatever you do, don't open the basement door. I didn't plan on listening to him. You don't tell a man not to open something and expect him to stay away, especially when the house already feels like it's hiding something alive. So that evening, I searched for the basement door. It was tucked behind the kitchen pantry, sealed with a rusted padlock that looked ancient. When I turned the key marked Hale, the lock clicked open like it had been waiting for me. A wave of cold air hit my face. The smell was sharp, old paper, metal, and something else, like grief. The stairs groaned under my weight as I descended. A single bulb swung from the ceiling, barely lighting the room. What I saw made my stomach twist. Dozens of boxes, all labeled with my name. Michael Turner, File 1, File 2, File 17. I tore one open. Inside were documents, court records, property transfers, divorce proceedings. My divorce, my entire life, printed and cataloged like an experiment. And tucked inside one file was a photograph. Laura, smiling in front of a red car I'd never seen before. A man stood beside her, his arm around her waist. He looked like me. Same build, same hair, same height, but not me. I flipped the photo over. The words written in black ink. Laura and Michael, anniversary, 2015. But in 2015, Laura and I were already divorced. My chest tightened. I dug through the next box, newspaper clippings, financial records, and dozens of photos of Laura with that same man. Then another name appeared over and over, Thomas Hale. I found a small wooden box inside one of the crates, with another cassette tape inside. I pressed play. You're wondering who you see in those photos. You think it's a coincidence? She played us both, Michael. She married you for love, and me for money. She took everything she could, then vanished. The voice was trembling now, angry. But she didn't just take from me. She took my name, my identity. She made us the same man, so when I died, you'd inherit my curse. I stepped back, nearly dropping the player. 2 men, 1 woman, 1 identity. I rushed upstairs, heart hammering, needing air. The house suddenly felt smaller, the walls closer, heavier. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. A painting I'd walked past every day now had a new detail, a dark figure in the background that hadn't been there yesterday. And its face looked like mine. My phone buzzed. It was Henry, the lawyer. "Mr. Turner," he said urgently. "You've been in the basement, haven't you?" "How do you—" Listen carefully. That house records everything. Hale built it with surveillance, hidden cameras, sound sensors. He was paranoid. "You need to leave." "I can't. The will is a trap," he snapped. "That's not an inheritance, Michael. It's an experiment." The line cut. I stood there, the phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the portrait's painted eyes. Then, from behind me, a whisper, the same voice from before. "She married us both, Michael, but only one of us was supposed to survive. If you found proof your ex-wife lived 2 lives with 2 husbands, what would you do next? Let me know in the comments. And if you think you can handle what happens next, hit subscribe." As I turned to run, I saw movement in the mirror. Laura's reflection standing right behind me, whispering my name. When I finally found the courage to go back to the basement, I knew what I was looking for, proof that the woman I loved had lived 2 lives. The boxes hadn't moved, but I swear the air felt different down there, like it knew I wasn't the same man who'd entered the first time. I opened a final crate marked private, L.H., and inside, I found what looked like a personal journal. It wasn't Hale's handwriting. It was Laura's. Her first entry was dated 6 years before our divorce. "Thomas wants to invest again. He's too trusting, just like Michael. I can't tell them the truth. Not yet." My throat went dry. Every line felt like a confession, whispered too late. Another entry. "If I pull this off, they'll both be fine. They'll both get what they want. Money for him, a new life for me. Both?" She wasn't choosing between us. She was using us. The next page had a photo taped to it. A wedding picture. My wedding picture. But the man beside her wasn't me. It was Thomas Hale. The realization hit me like a freight train. Laura had married both of us under different names, in different states, one for love, one for money. No wonder she cried the night she filed for divorce. It wasn't guilt, it was strategy. I sat on the cold concrete, the pages trembling in my hands. Every word, every "I love you," every tear she shed, all rehearsed. In the corner of the room, an old TV screen flickered to life by itself. A recorded video began to play, dated a week before Thomas Hale's death. Thomas sat in front of the camera, pale and exhausted, his voice calm but broken. "If you're watching this, Michael, you finally understand what she did. She played me. She played you. But she won't play death." He held up a gun, then placed it down. "I won't use it on her. I'll use it on myself. Because I want her to think she won. And then I'll let my revenge begin through you." The screen cut to static. I stared at the flickering light until my eyes burned. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was inheritance by manipulation. Hale's revenge was living through me, poisoning me from the inside. I climbed the stairs, still shaking, and found myself standing before Laura's portrait again. The green eyes seemed almost alive now. "I loved you," I whispered bitterly, "and you turned both of us into ghosts." That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't breathe, couldn't think of anything except her. By midnight, I decided to leave. I grabbed the car keys from the study and headed for the door. But as I opened it, headlights blinded me. A car pulled into the driveway. Black sedan. Familiar. A figure stepped out, hair tied back, wearing a long coat. "Michael," she said softly. I froze. Laura, alive, standing right there on the steps of Hale Manor. "I knew you'd find this place," she whispered, "but you need to stop digging." I stared at her in disbelief. "Stop digging? You married 2 men, Laura." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but her voice was sharp. "You don't understand. Thomas wasn't who you think he was." "Then who was he?" Her silence was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Before I could ask again, she looked past me into the house and said quietly, "He's still watching." Then she turned and ran into the fog. If your ex-wife showed up at the mansion you inherited, after you found out she'd married 2 men, would you chase her or stay inside? Tell me below. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next part reveals Hale's real revenge. I stepped outside to follow her, but on the front door, someone had carved a fresh word into the wood overnight. Revenge. The next morning, I demanded answers. I drove to the law firm, stormed into Henry's office, and slammed the red seal onto his desk. You knew, I said. You knew about her, about Hale, about all of it. Henry didn't even flinch. He removed his glasses and sighed. I told you this inheritance was complicated. Complicated? I snapped. She scammed both of us. Hale killed himself because of her. Now she's here, alive. What the hell is this? Henry hesitated, then pulled out another folder from his drawer. One marked addendum. The revenge clause. What's that? He opened it slowly. A condition Hale added before his death. It states that you receive the full $47 million, only if you fulfill his last request. What request? Henry read the line aloud. To claim the inheritance, Michael Turner must bring equal ruin upon Laura Hale as she brought upon me. I stared at him, unable to speak. He wants you to destroy her life, Henry said quietly. Completely, financially, socially, personally, or the money goes to her. My mind spun. He wanted me to finish his revenge for him. Henry nodded once. He knew what kind of man you become after what she did. I felt my hands trembling. I'm not that man. Henry looked at me for a long time. Aren't you? I left his office without another word. The drive back to the manor felt endless. The fog was thicker, the road emptier. Every thought in my head battled the other. Greed against guilt, rage against reason. $47 million. A lifetime of betrayal. A woman who had broken 2 men and walked away untouched. By the time I reached the house, my decision felt heavier than the air itself. I poured a drink in the study, trying to calm my mind. That's when the phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. Michael. It was Laura. Her voice was trembling. You need to listen to me. You have 2 minutes. Thomas Hale isn't dead, she said quickly. He made you his pawn. That clause, it's his way of making you finish what he started. He's alive, Michael. He's watching you. I laughed bitterly. Do you think I'm that stupid? I saw the video. Exactly, she whispered. He wanted you to see it. Then the line went dead. The room felt smaller again, like the walls were breathing. I looked down at the glass of whiskey in my hand. It was shaking. If Hale was alive, then everything, the house, the will, even Laura's return, was part of something bigger. I went to the fireplace. There, carved faintly into the wood, were new words I hadn't noticed before. The real inheritance begins when you choose who deserves to die. My hands went cold. The mansion lights flickered once, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed me whole. If you were offered $47 million to destroy the person who ruined your life, would you take it? Let me know in the comments. And if you think the story can't get darker, subscribe, because what comes next will change everything. As the lights flickered back on, the study door slowly creaked open, and standing in the doorway was Thomas Hale himself. I stared at the old mahogany desk in front of me, my fingers trembling as I opened a yellowed envelope that had my name scrawled across it in sharp, uneven ink. To my son, Michael. My heart pounded. The air in the lawyer's office grew heavier with each breath. Mr. Langley, the attorney, nodded gently. It was written a week before your father passed. I hesitated before unfolding the letter. The paper smelled faintly of cigar smoke, the same scent my father carried with him everywhere. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. You may hate me for what I did to you and your mother, but there are things you don't know about her, about the company, and about your inheritance. The money isn't a gift. It's a test. Use it wisely, or it will destroy you. My chest tightened. I could almost hear his gravelly voice reading those words aloud. A test? The man who threw me out after Mom's death was suddenly playing philosopher from beyond the grave. I slammed the paper down. A test? He ruined my life. What kind of test is that? Mr. Langley's calm demeanor never broke. There's more. The money is tied to conditions. You can't sell any of the assets for a year, and you must maintain the family estate. I blinked. The estate? The one in Lakewood? He nodded. Yes, the same one your ex-wife's new husband just purchased half of. My blood ran cold. What? Mr. Langley sighed. Apparently, it was sold to a development firm during bankruptcy proceedings. Your father must have been trying to buy it back before his death. A memory flashed in my mind. My father yelling over the phone, his voice breaking as he said, "You don't know what she's capable of, Michael." I thought he meant my ex-wife's greed. But what if he meant something else entirely? As I left the office, the world seemed different, colder, sharper. My father's letter burned in my pocket like a curse. If this inheritance was a test, then I was going to pass it my way, even if it meant tearing apart every lie he and everyone else had ever told me. If you were in my place, would you have trusted the letter or burned it? Tell me in the comments. And just as I stepped out of the office, a black car pulled up beside me. The driver lowered his window. "Mr. Michael Reeves?" he asked. "Yes." He handed me another envelope, this one with no name, just a single symbol drawn in red wax, the family crest. The Lakewood estate stood before me like a sleeping monster. The iron gates were rusted, the windows boarded, but I could still feel its presence, my childhood, my mother's laughter, the echoes of fights that never really ended. When I stepped inside, the smell of dust and rot greeted me like an old friend. Broken picture frames lined the hallway. Faces of people long gone staring back at me with silent judgment. I ran my hand along the wooden banister, whispering, "I'm back, old man." The sound of my own voice made me flinch. It was too close to his. I spent hours exploring every creaking door, every shadowed corridor. Then, in the master bedroom, I found something strange. The wallpaper had been peeled back, revealing a hidden safe. My pulse quickened. Inside, there was no money, no jewels, only a single black USB drive. Back at the hotel, I plugged it into my laptop. A folder opened instantly. Truth. Inside were dozens of video files labeled with dates, going back over 10 years. The first one made my stomach turn. It was my father sitting in his office, pale and shaking. If you're watching this, Michael, then she's already found a way to win. But you must know your mother's death was an accident. And your wife, she knows. The screen froze on his face, eyes wide, terrified, as if he'd seen something in the room behind the camera. I couldn't breathe. My father was accusing my ex-wife of knowing something about my mother's death. That couldn't be true. It couldn't. I clicked another file. This one was a surveillance video, grainy, time-stamped just weeks before my mother died. In it, my father and a woman were arguing. Not my mother, my wife. "Don't you dare threaten me," she hissed. "You think he'll believe you over me? He's already halfway out of your control." Then she leaned forward, whispering something I could barely hear, but it made my blood run ice cold. "When she's gone, he'll come to me. That's how this ends." The video cut to black. I sat frozen for minutes that felt like hours. All those years of guilt, all those nights wondering if I could have saved my marriage or my mother, and now this. My father wasn't cruel. He was cornered. I clenched my fists until my knuckles went white. The inheritance wasn't money. It was ammunition. And now I knew exactly where to aim. If you've ever discovered a truth too dark to believe, you'll understand what I felt that night. Don't forget to subscribe. The revenge is only beginning. The truth was a poison I could no longer ignore. For days, I barely slept. The words from those recordings echoed through my skull. My ex-wife, Rachel, arguing with my father. My mother's death. My inheritance. Everything was tangled in a web of deceit that stretched back years. Now I knew what the $47 million was really for. It wasn't a gift. It was a weapon. My father hadn't left me money. He'd left me the means to finish what he couldn't. The Lakewood estate became my headquarters. I hired a small team of private investigators under a false name, pretending to be a developer restoring the property. Behind the scenes, every phone call, every file, every message traced back to one name, Rachel Carter. My ex-wife had remarried a man named Andrew Miles, a venture capitalist who now owned part of my father's company. Their photos were all over the news, charity galas, magazine covers, their mansion in the hills. They looked perfect, untouchable. But the deeper I dug, the more cracks I found. Rachel had been transferring funds to offshore accounts through the same lawyer who handled my father's estate, Mr. Langley. I confronted him late one night. His office smelled like whiskey and sweat. "You knew," I said, my voice low. "You've been helping her hide the money." He tried to keep his composure, but his eyes flickered with fear. "Michael, it's not what you think." I slammed my fist on his desk. "You think I'm here to talk? You think I won't ruin you the way she ruined me?" He exhaled shakily, then reached for a drawer. My hand darted faster, pulling it open before he could stop me. Inside was a flash drive identical to the one I'd found in my father's safe. I plugged it into his computer. More files appeared, legal documents, hidden recordings, and a scanned letter titled, "Property Transfer, Lakewood Estate." My ex-wife's signature was on it. Rachel had forced my father into bankruptcy. She planned everything, even my divorce. She wanted control of the estate, the company, the fortune, and my father's death wasn't just fate. Langley finally broke down. She threatened me, said if I didn't cooperate, she'd ruin my family too. I stared at him, disgust and pity colliding inside me, then let her come for me. That night, I sent Rachel an invitation, an official notice to meet regarding the inheritance. I made sure it looked legal, professional. She'd think she was about to win again. But this time, I'd be waiting. If you had one chance to confront the person who destroyed your life, would you take it? Tell me in the comments below. The storm outside raged as I looked out the window. Lightning flashed over the Lakewood estate. The house was ready. So was I. And somewhere deep down, I could almost hear my father whisper, "Now you understand." The night Rachel arrived, rain pounded against the windows like an angry drumbeat. She stepped into the grand hall, heels clicking sharply on the marble floor, wearing the same perfume she wore the day she walked out of our marriage. Behind her mask of control, I saw a flicker of unease. "Michael," she said smoothly, "I came because your message said there were unresolved legal issues. Let's make this quick." I smiled faintly. "Oh, it'll be quick, but not painless." Her eyes narrowed. "Still dramatic, I see." I led her to my father's study, the same room where I'd watched his recorded confession. On the desk sat a laptop, open and waiting. "Before we talk about business," I said, "you should watch this." She frowned but leaned forward. The video began to play. Her own face, younger, argued with my father. Her voice sharp, venomous. "When she's gone, he'll come to me. That's how this ends." Rachel froze. Her reflection in the laptop screen looked ghostly pale. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "My father left it for me," I said quietly, "along with the truth." Her voice trembled now, the mask cracking. "You don't understand. I understand enough. You manipulated me. You poisoned my family from the inside. My mother's death, was it your idea too?" Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't move me anymore. She whispered, "I never meant for her to die. It was an argument." She fell, hit her head. I panicked. "Your father found out. He said he'd destroy me. I had no choice." I stared at her, 1,000 emotions crashing through me. Rage, grief, betrayal. "No choice," I said softly. "You had every choice. You just chose yourself." I opened another folder on the laptop. Her forged financial statements, offshore accounts, and transfer logs. "I could destroy you tonight," I said. "Prison, scandal, everything gone." Rachel looked at me, trembling. "Then do it." I stepped closer. "No, that's too easy." She blinked in confusion. "You'll live with it," I continued. "The world will still see your perfect smile, your charity galas, your mansion. But every night, When you look in the mirror, you'll see me. You'll remember this moment. You'll remember the truth." She broke down then, sobbing, shaking, collapsing onto the floor. I turned and walked away. The storm outside had finally begun to fade. When I reached the door, I looked back one last time. "You wanted everything, Rachel," I said quietly. "Now you get to keep it and the ghosts that come with it." Outside, the first light of dawn crept across the horizon. The rain had stopped, leaving the world silent. The inheritance still sat untouched in the bank. I didn't need it anymore. My revenge wasn't the money. It was in the peace that came from finally knowing. I took one last look at the Lakewood estate, the house that had broken me and rebuilt me, and whispered, "Dad, it's over." And as I walked away, the wind carried his voice in the distance, or maybe just my own conscience. "You passed the test, son." If you followed my story till the end, don't forget to subscribe. Some inheritances are more than money. They're lessons paid for in blood.